So this is the ping pong ball shooter, and its basic construction was a piece of press board that ran horizontally here, and then a vertical piece of the same wood that went straight up and down, and it screwed from the bottom into the wood there, but this right angle support was put on there from an erector set. It helped a lot keeping it straight up and down. And on the back here we have the motors and the wheels and the power source. So in the back here you can see these two motors here. Each one of them came out of a rechargeable vacuum cleaner. Both of them were handheld. One came from a dust buster and the other one came out of a dirt devil. They both run on 12 volts, which is nice because they can have the same power source, and they're held in place by the wood, the vertical piece here, and a strip of steel right here by 3 bolts. You can see the ends right here with the wing nuts 1, 2, and 3, and then on the other side here 1, 2, and 3. The inside, which actually contacts the motor housings themselves, are these door and window insulating strips, so that the motors could be clamped down by turning the wing nuts and holding them in place. And the reason that was done, rather just setting the motors in one place, was it allowed these to be moved back and forth so we get just the right distance to shoot a ping pong ball or a marble or even a playing card. So that's why that variable was introduced here. It does make these motors twist a little bit more because they're not held as strong with the rubber insulation there, but it's not that bad, and it does work to be able to make this adjustable. These wheel assemblies were by far the hardest to make. Initially, we used pieces of tires or rubber tires, which had their plastic innards and came from toys, but anything we put on here actually flew off or was distorted because of how fast these motors spin. Finally, we used wood. This is actually balsa wood, and put rubber bands around the outside here, but even the rubber bands would through centripetal force eventually expand and go flying. So eventually we ended up using the same thing as what's on the inside here, these rubber insulation strips. They're glued on tight around the sides, and if you look closely, wire was run through the center of them and then tied tightly and then cut so the end pieces were short and they didn't protrude out the side of the wheel here. And the gluing and the wire held these on, and they've been on there for years now. These screws go down into a metal plate. You can see that down here, and that metal plate was attached to the top of the motor, and that plate is what made this all work. So the plate is attached to the balsa wood through these screws, and then the rubber insulation goes around both of them so it can grab whatever's being sent through the center there. I mentioned earlier, both of these motors run on 12 volts. They initially ran on rechargeable 12 volts when they were part of their vacuum cleaners, but I took 8 D-cell size batteries here and put them together by properly wiring them in series, and then these wires, although it looks like a mess, they simply go from the batteries to the motor through a switch right there. And so that's it. That's basically how this was made. We're going to see how well it works. I added this feeder. It's pretty basic. It's a paper towel roll that's glued with a little pedestal there, and it just helps feed the balls right in there without getting your fingers close to it. Give it a try against a couple of simple targets here. That one. All right, try this one more time. Missed. You can see the marks on these balls here from the treads on that insulation, that rubber insulation. It really grabs a hold of them tightly. Like I said, you can move these wheels closer together, and I'll show you a couple videos from earlier in the summer when I did that and was shooting some playing cards.